We got Mexican food. We got Chinese food. We got tons of seafood options. So, you're thinking of making a move to Baytown, Texas. Today we're going to go over some of the pros and cons of moving to the area to decide if this is the place for you or if maybe we should be looking in the other suburbs of Houston. My name's Troy Tomlinson. I'm a real estate agent. Been doing it for 8 years and lived in Baytown for 30 years of my life. Born and raised, and I would love to help you make this area home. And whether you're moving today or 10 years from now, I would love to help you make your move smooth. Every single day, I get phone calls from people just like you who are looking to move to the area, move to Houston, looking for the best neighborhoods, and I'm hoping that these series of videos are going to help you out and really narrow down exactly where you want to be before you make it to Houston. So let's dive in now. One of the biggest pros is going to be how affordable this area is. You can find homes that are in need of repair for the sub 200,000s, and you can find brand new homes as cheap as like the 260s. So there's a lot in the area that you have to choose from. And then as far as you are real close to Houston, right? So number 2, proximity to Houston. You are depending on what side of town, you're 20 minutes to 30 minutes away from downtown. And when I say downtown, I mean like Reliant. So super close, heavy traffic, of course. You've got a couple of different options to get out west. Just being close to those big cities, it's a good thing to have. Nature. So we have tons of trails and boat ramps and, activities that people can do outside. So just the other day, I was out at the nature park, right, shooting some video for this, and there was probably 100 people out fishing and having picnics in the park and riding their bikes and crabbing, whatever you could think of that you'd want to do. We've got space for it here in Baytown. So, there's a lot of houses, and there's a lot of stuff to do outside as well. So all good. The job market. So we are a heavy reliant on oil in this area. So when oil's doing good, you got good. So oil's doing good right now. That's a pro. We host companies like Exxon, Chevron, and when I say we host, I mean more like they host us. They're pretty much the only reason Baytown exists. But yeah, Exxon, Chevron, Bayer, which is now Convestro. We got all the different, subcontractors and the contractors that are in the plants and all kinds of stuff. So there's tons of jobs here, pretty much all reliant on either, the plants or being the teacher to teach all the kids of the people who work in the plants. So, local attractions. So, there's not a whole lot to do, but one of the big things we have is a nice big water park. We have Pirates Bay. So, Pirates Bay opened probably 10, 12 years ago. They've got a wave pool, they've got a lazy river, they've got quite a few slides, so lots to do there. And then one of the big, I'd say, attractions that we have is all our intramural sports. So there's tons of opportunities to play softball, baseball, tennis. I'm sure we got a pickleball court somewhere, if not already going in soon. But just lots of sports that you can just go out and enjoy. Even if you're new to the area, right? It's a great way to make friends. So definitely check some of that stuff out. Small town feel. So we're working towards that, or working away from that. Growing up, we were a city of 40,000. I think now we're somewhere closer to the 100,000. But it still feels, right, when you go through town, it still feels like, that small town system. You feel like you know everybody if you're from the area. Moving in, get tight knit with your community, with your neighborhood, right? Maybe checking out a few of the other videos that are neighborhood specific can help you figure out where you might fit in best. But it's definitely still got a little bit of that small town feel, and we're 20 minutes from downtown, which is crazy. So definitely a good thing. Cost of living. So we got cheap rent. You can find a rental for $700 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Renting houses as cheap as, I've seen them as low as $1,100 for a 2-bed, 1-bath. That's for a single family home. So, there's the cost of everything is rising everywhere, but we, have close access to oil. So gas a little cheaper here. We have, farmland nearby. So you can get, access to fresh meat and eggs and all that kind of stuff. We got Mexican food. We got Chinese food. We got tons of seafood options. Access to the airports. If you're coming in from out of the area, of course, we have 2 airports. We've got IAH, which is the George Bush International, and then we have Hobby, which is where Southwest flies out of. So 2 airports within, 30, 45 minutes of Baytown. So if you're traveling a lot for work or just like to travel a lot in general, Baytown is nice and close to those airports, kind of equidistant to the 2. So lots of options to fly out, or if you're coming to visit, fly in. So it's a great thing. Diverse food. So we eat, right? In Baytown, we eat. We got plant workers. They eat. When they're not working 16 hours a day, they eat. We got Mexican food. We got Chinese food. We got tons of seafood options. We got all kinds of opportunities to make you fat, right? It works. We got lots to eat, and you'll see a few of the different restaurants here, but we got food. If you're looking for a place for food, Houston, I think, is ranked the #1 fattest in the nation. A lot of that's got to come from Baytown because we got food. Check it out. And then, of course, some of the cons, right? The cons kind of go hand in hand with the pros. We got the plants. So we have, air pollution, if you want to call it that. But that's where the money comes from. So you get the plants for the work. You got to deal with the plants. Every once in a while there will be some issue and they have to, deal with that, just depending on what's happening. But, you're dealing with the pros and the con when you have those plants nearby. So definitely something to consider if you're worried about your, lung health, I guess. But if you're coming here for oil money, this is something you deal with. Traffic. So there's a few different intersections and streets that around 7 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the afternoon, you just don't want to be there. But that's everywhere. You're going to have traffic. You got people, you're going to have traffic. The plants all get out roughly the same time. That's when that big congestion happens there at 5:30. So you just deal with it. Really the worst intersection is going to be that 330 into I-10. Dreadful. You'll sit for 45 minutes if you go that way at 5 o'clock. So to be noted. Okay, another con. We got nightlife. Not a lot of it. We got 3 bars-ish. We got Down on Main. It's my favorite. It's a little dive bar. Older crowd, calmer. We got Limelight, which is kind of the younger crowd. Sometimes, just depends. And then they have one that I don't go to. It's got a little bull on it. But that's the real young crowd that's dancing. They have, live singers, stuff like that. But for the most part, that's kind of it as far as the bar only. And then of course we have O'Neill's on the water and Little O'Neill's. So there's a few options, but a lot of people do travel down to Kemah or go out to East Downtown for their nightlife activities. So hurricanes, we get them. They happen every 4 or 5 years. We'll have a bad one. Stuff washes away. We have wind damage. Then we rebuild. So it's a con, but pretty much anybody that's near water has that risk. So deal with that, I guess. It's hot. Another con is hot. It's wet. It's humid. We got 99% humidity most of the time. You go outside, you sweat immediately once it's over 85 degrees. So if you come here, just know it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be wet. So school, we homeschool. I'll leave it at that. The schools, they're ranked well, and they have their pros and cons even within the school district and within each school, but that's not something I'm allowed to super guide you on. I definitely recommend checking out online resources, and I'll link some of those below to check out the schools in the area to help you figure out exactly where you want to be. Lack of diversity in the jobs, right? So we got a lot of jobs. All of them rely on oil. So when oil prices go down, a lot of people lose their jobs. We have issues in the area, but the jobs are real good and they pay real good when the getting's good. So move here in a high oil time and you'll be fine. Save for a rainy day. Public transportation, right? Another big con is we don't have a lot, right? We have some of the Harris County buses that go through that can take you into downtown. There's a couple little bus routes around town, but for the most part, if you live in Baytown, you're gonna need a vehicle of some sort, whether it's a bike or a car or a helicopter if you got one. Baytown's big, so you're not just walking to the store to go get your food, unless you live in one of the very few neighborhoods that's real close. But for the most part, you're gonna need a vehicle of some sort. So we have something called Suburban Sprawl, which is basically where everything that used to be green, now it's got houses, it's got apartments, it's got buildings, right? They're taking over the green space, really creating a more suburban environment, whereas probably, 5-10 years ago, Baytown was probably considered almost a rural area, at least some parts of Baytown. And there are a few different spots where you can still get, big chunks of land if that's something you're looking for, but for the most part, we're full suburban. A lot of options for living, a lot of options for eating, a lot of options for playing, but we're losing that rural feel for sure. And of course, flooding, right? So some parts of Baytown, when heavy rain happens, slow drainage, right? It's all stuff that's actively being worked on by the city, but there are some areas where we run into issues with our drainage systems for sure. But that's kind of all the pros and cons that I wanted to talk about today. Let me know in the comments if there's something else that I missed, or if you're from the area, if you're moving to the area, what's something you heard about the area that you think might be a pro or a con. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. As always, my name's Troy Tomlinson. Again, I'm a real estate agent born and raised here in Baytown. I'd love to help you make your move smooth.